The training facility smelled like disinfectant and barely suppressed panic. Instructor Vex 9 stood at the observation window, all four of his arms crossed in what his species considered a posture of extreme concern. Below, in the reinforced containment area, a human sat in a metal chair. Next to the human, in an identical metal chair, sat something that could only be described as concentrated fury wrapped in fur. That, Vex 9 said slowly, his translator struggling to maintain calm tones, is a honey badger. Lieutenant Cree, fresh from the academy and entirely too confident, leaned forward. It's small. Why is everyone acting like we're storing a plasma bomb down there? Vex 9's upper eyes rolled, while his lower eyes stayed fixed on the scene below. Because, Lieutenant, that creature has exactly 0 survival instincts and approximately infinite rage. It's Earth's answer to the question nobody asked. What if we made something that doesn't know how to quit? The human, a woman named Harper Mills, sat casually scrolling through a datapad. She wore the standard orange jumpsuit of the Interspecies Wildlife Management Program. The honey badger, secured in a specialized containment harness, was doing what honey badgers do best, testing the absolute limits of its restraints while making sounds that suggested it had personal grievances against the entire universe. Okay, but seriously, Cree pressed. Humans brought thousands of species into the galactic community. Why is this one special? Because, Vex 9 said, pulling up a file that made 3 different computers flag it as hazardous material. This species has been documented attacking lions, raiding beehives while being actively stung, and eating venomous snakes for breakfast. Literally for breakfast. They have a metabolism that processes toxins so efficiently they treat cobra venom like a mild seasoning. On the screen, Harper reached over and gently scratched behind the honey badger's ear. The creature's growling decreased by approximately 3%. The human seems to have it under control, Cree observed. The human, Vex 9 said with the tone of someone who'd seen this movie before and knew exactly how it ended, has it moderately inconvenienced. There's a difference. The intercom crackled. Control, this is Handler Mills. Ready for Socialization Protocol 7. Vex 9 pressed the communication button. Harper, we talked about this. Protocol 7 involves 3 other species in close proximity. Are you absolutely certain? Control. I've worked with Brutus here for 6 months. He's making progress. You've worked with him for 6 months, and he's bitten through 4 different harness types, destroyed 2 containment units, and last week he figured out how to open electronic locks. He's a smart boy, Harper said cheerfully, as if this was a positive trait and not a harbinger of facility-wide evacuation. Cree watched, fascinated despite himself. What's the actual purpose of this program? Vex 9 sighed, a sound that came out like air escaping from a punctured hull. Diplomacy. The Galactic Council wants to understand how humans have managed to coexist with some of the most aggressive predators in known space. Earth's ecosystem is basically a greatest hits album of things that want to kill you. And somehow, impossibly, humans just live there. They domesticated wolves. They keep creatures that produce toxins as pets. Some of them deliberately swim with territorial predators for fun. That's insane. That's humanity. Below, 3 other handlers entered the room. 1 Klaxon, built like a mobile tank with too many teeth. 1 Sorvian, whose species had evolved specifically to avoid confrontation. And 1 Tyrellian, who looked like someone had stretched a very nervous bird to human proportions. The Klaxon handler carried a small creature that resembled a 6-legged rabbit. The Sorvian had something that looked like a floating jellyfish. The Tyrellian's animal was, mercifully, just a standard earth turtle. Okay, Harper said, standing up slowly. We're going to try something new today. Brutus, you remember the rules, right? No biting. No charging. No general mayhem. The honey badger made a sound like gravel being processed through a wood chipper. I'll take that as a maybe, Harper said. Vex 9 leaned closer to the window. This is going to be spectacular in the worst way possible. The Klaxon handler, whose name was Grex, set down the rabbit creature about 2 meters away. It immediately did what prey animals do. Froze and assessed escape routes. The honey badger's eyes locked on. "Brutus," Harper said, not loudly, just firmly. "Remember what we practiced." The honey badger shifted in its harness. Every muscle in its compact body suggested it was calculating trajectories and contemplating violence. "Look at me, buddy," Harper continued, kneeling beside the chair. "Eyes on me." And here's where it got weird. The honey badger, this creature that had been documented fighting off entire packs of predators, turned its head to look at Harper. "In 20 cycles of observation," Vex 9 muttered, "I have never seen anything make a honey badger change its focus. They're like furry missiles with attitude problems." Harper pulled out a small container. "Who wants treats? Who's a good boy who's not going to start an interspecies incident today?" The honey badger made a different sound. Still aggressive, but now with hints of interest. "Is she negotiating with it?" Cree asked. "Apparently." Grex looked uncertain. His species' concept of animal handling involved either overwhelming force or strategic retreat. Watching a human sweet-talk a land-based piranha was outside his operational parameters. The Sorvian handler, Lessa, floated her jellyfish creature a bit closer. It pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that in her culture meant peaceful intentions. The honey badger glanced at it, then back at Harper. "That's right," Harper said. "We're all friends here. Nobody's food, nobody's threat. We're just a bunch of beings existing in the same space without conflict." "Revolutionary concept, I know." "She's being sarcastic to an animal that doesn't understand sarcasm," Cree said. "That's very human," Vex 9 replied. The Torellian handler, whose name was genuinely unpronounceable and went by Steve for convenience, set down his turtle. It immediately retracted into its shell because it had more survival instincts than seemed fair given present company. For a moment, everything was calm. 4 species of animals in close proximity, not actively trying to kill each other. It was, by training program standards, a miracle. Then the turtle poked its head out. The honey badger's entire body went rigid. "Brutus," Harper said, her voice taking on a tone that suggested consequences. "Don't even think about it." But thinking wasn't really a honey badger's strong suit. Acting on impulse and rage was. Brutus lunged, or tried to. The harness held, but the chair did not. The metal screeched as several bolts sheared clean off. The honey badger, still attached to what was now essentially a metal backpack with chair components, charged at the turtle. Steve yelped and grabbed his turtle, which had the good sense to stay retracted. Grex's rabbit thing bolted, moving faster than its physiology should have allowed. Lessa's jellyfish just floated higher, which was probably the wisest move. And Harper, instead of running or looking concerned, just stood there with her hands on her hips. "Brutus, enough." The honey badger stopped, not because it wanted to, but because approximately 6 months of conditioning kicked in through the rage fog. It sat there, still wearing half a chair, breathing hard and looking deeply unsatisfied with this turn of events. In the observation room, Cree's mouth hung open. Did she just command it to stop? Mid-charge? "I told you," Vex 9 said, though he sounded equally shocked. "Humans are incomprehensible." Harper walked over to the honey badger, which was still making angry noises that suggested this conversation was far from over. She knelt down, eye level with about 30 kilos of concentrated spite. "That," she said slowly, "was not good boy behavior. We talked about this." The honey badger growled. "Yeah, I know you're frustrated. I know every instinct in your fuzzy little body says to attack first and ignore questions entirely. But we're trying to be civilized here." Another growl, slightly less committed. "Tell you what, you let me get this chair situation sorted out. You don't bite anyone for the next 10 minutes, and I'll give you the premium treats. The ones with the mealworms you like." The honey badger's ears perked up slightly. "That's what I thought. You're not mindless, are you? You're just really passionate about violence." Vex 9 activated the intercom. "Handler Mills, do you need security to intervene?" "Negative, Control. Brutus and I are just having a discussion about boundaries and appropriate responses to non-threatening stimuli." Aren't we, buddy? The honey badger bit the chair it was still wearing. He's expressing his feelings, Harper said. That's healthy. Better than bottling it up. Better than bottling up the urge to maul everything? Cree asked, nobody in particular. For a honey badger, yes. Vex 9 answered. Harper began carefully removing the destroyed harness. The honey badger allowed this, though its expression suggested it was doing so under protest and would be filing a complaint later. See? Harper said to the other handlers, who were pressed against the far wall like students avoiding the teacher's question. It's all about establishing trust and understanding behavioral triggers. Brutus doesn't actually want to hurt anyone. He just operates under the assumption that everything is a threat until proven otherwise. So, he's paranoid and violent, Grex said. He's cautious and defensive, Harper corrected. Perspective matters. Finally free of the chair components, the honey badger shook itself and sat down. It looked at Harper expectantly. All right. Deal's a deal. She produced the premium treats. The honey badger ate them with an enthusiasm that seemed excessive even for food consumption. So, Lessa ventured, still floating a safe distance away, the human theory is that any creature can be socialized through patience and positive reinforcement. That's the human theory, Harper confirmed. Though Brutus here is teaching me that patience is a broader concept than I initially understood. Vex 9 made a note in his report. Subject continues to demonstrate unprecedented ability to manage hostile fauna through means that border on telepathy or madness. Possibly both. In the containment area, Harper was now sitting on the floor with the honey badger, who had achieved something resembling calm. The other animals were being gradually reintroduced to the space. You know what the scary part is, Cree said. What? She's smiling. And she was. Harper Mills sat there surrounded by the aftermath of a near catastrophe, holding a creature that most species would classify as a biological weapon, and she looked genuinely happy. Humans, Vex 9 said, are either the bravest or stupidest species we've ever encountered. I genuinely cannot determine which. 3 days later, the facility received an unexpected visitor. Ambassador Thren-Var of the Diplomatic Relations Committee arrived with an entourage of 12 security personnel and enough documentation to fill a cargo bay. He was tall, even for a Vorian, with iridescent scales that shifted colors based on emotional state. Right now, they were oscillating between nervous yellow and skeptical purple. I need to see this human and her violent companion, Thren-Var announced. The Council has concerns about expanding the wildlife exchange program. Several members believe humans are too reckless with dangerous specimens. Vex 9 resisted the urge to agree immediately. Ambassador, Handler Mills has made significant progress with the subject. Perhaps a demonstration would be more informative than speculation. That's precisely why I'm here. Show me this progress. Down in the newly reinforced training area, Harper was working with Brutus on what she called impulse control exercises. This involved placing increasingly interesting objects in front of the honey badger and rewarding him for not immediately destroying them. Currently, a small mechanical toy was whirring across the floor. The honey badger watched it with the intensity of a tactical strike team planning an assault. Easy, Brutus. It's not alive. It's not food. It's just a thing that moves. The toy bumped into the wall and reversed direction. The honey badger's muscles tensed. I see you calculating, Harper said. I know what you're thinking. But remember, we don't attack things just because they move unexpectedly. That's like 70% of life's experiences. You'd be exhausted. Lieutenant Cree, who'd been assigned as Vex 9's assistant for the ambassador's visit, whispered, Is she having a philosophical discussion with it? She does that, Vex 9 confirmed. We've stopped questioning it. The toy continued its mechanical journey. Brutus continued not attacking it. This constituted a major victory. Harper produced a treat. Good restraint. See? You're basically a diplomat now. I would pay substantial credits to never hear those words applied to a honey badger again. Thren-Var muttered. The intercom activated. Control. We're ready for Phase 2, if the ambassador would like to observe something more substantial. Thren-Var's scales shifted to interested orange. What's Phase 2? Vex 9 pulled up the protocol on his display. Direct interaction between the honey badger and Ambassador Thren-Var. The color drained from Thren-Var's scales entirely, leaving them a pale, terrified white. Absolutely not. I'm not entering a confined space with that creature. With respect, Ambassador, you're here to evaluate the program's viability. Handler Mills has been working toward this specific goal, demonstrating that with proper training, even humanity's most aggressive fauna can participate in controlled diplomatic scenarios. That's not a diplomatic scenario. That's a liability waiting to happen. Kree, surprising everyone, spoke up. Sir, I've been observing for 3 days. The human really does have exceptional control. I wouldn't recommend it if I thought you'd be in actual danger. Thren-Var looked at his security team, who suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. You're all supposed to protect me. We are, sir, the head of security said. That's why we're suggesting you trust the human's assessment. Refusing might be more dangerous to your career than the animal is to your person. Political calculus flickered across Thren-Var's face. Finally, he straightened his formal robes. Fine. But if I'm injured, I'm filing complaints with every regulatory body in 6 sectors. That's the spirit, Vex 9 said, not entirely sarcastically. 10 minutes later, Ambassador Thren-Var stood in the training area, surrounded by enough safety equipment to qualify as light armor. Harper had explained the protocol 3 times, twice in simplified terms. Okay, she said. Brutus is going to enter from that door. He's going to walk past you. You're going to stand completely still and breathe normally. No sudden movements. No aggressive postures. Nothing that reads as threatening. Everything about him reads as threatening. Thren-Var objected. From your perspective, sure. From his perspective, you're a giant reptilian creature in his territory. He's probably more nervous than you are. I sincerely doubt that. Harper smiled. Trust the process, Ambassador. She signaled to Grex, who was handling the entry door. The lock disengaged with a hiss that seemed ominous in retrospect. Brutus entered at a trot, took in the scene with quick, assessing glances, and immediately spotted Thren-Var. His body language shifted to high alert. Harper, Thren-Var said, his voice climbing an octave. He's staring at me. He's gathering information. Stay calm. Brutus. Come here, buddy. The honey badger ignored her, continuing his visual assessment of the ambassador. Every hair on his body stood at attention. His nose worked overtime processing sense. Why isn't he listening? Thren-Var's scales were now panic white with streaks of red. Because he's making his own decision about whether you're safe. I can't force him. I can only guide him. Harper kept her voice steady, conversational. Brutus, remember we talked about new friends? Ambassador Thren-Var is a new friend. He's not here to hurt you. He's not prey. He's just a very nervous diplomat who's questioning his career choices. In the observation room, Vex 9 leaned forward. So far his face nearly touched the glass. If this goes wrong, we'll need to fill out approximately 47 incident reports. Only 47? Kree asked. I'm rounding down for optimism. Below, Brutus took a step toward the ambassador. Then another. His movements were deliberate, cautious. This wasn't the charging attack stance. This was evaluation mode. Thren-Var stood frozen, which was exactly what Harper had instructed. Sweat beaded on his scaled forehead, if Vorians had foreheads in the traditional sense. That's it, Harper encouraged. Brutus, you're doing great. Just checking things out, right? Nobody's threatening anyone. The honey badger circled around to Thren-Var's side. The ambassador's eyes tracked the movement, but he kept his body still. He's behind me, Thren-Var whispered. I don't like him behind me. He's just getting your full profile. Scent, appearance, threat level. You're passing the test so far. There's a test? Nobody mentioned a test. Brutus completed his circle and sat down directly in front of the ambassador, about 2 meters away. He tilted his head, studying this strange scaled creature. Then something remarkable happened. The honey badger's aggressive posture relaxed slightly. Not completely. Brutus wasn't capable of complete relaxation unless unconscious, but enough to signal he'd categorized Thren-Var as weird, but probably not an immediate problem. Harper approached slowly, holding treats. See, Brutus? I told you. New friend. Weird scales, strange smell, but fundamentally harmless. I'm choosing to not be offended by that description, Thren-Var said. You're doing amazing, Ambassador. Most beings would have panicked by now. Harper rewarded Brutus with treats, then did something that made everyone in the observation room gasp. She gestured for Thren-Var to extend his hand. Absolutely not, he said immediately. Ambassador, this is the critical moment. Brutus has accepted your presence. Now we establish positive association. If you offer him a treat, he'll remember you as someone safe. Or he'll remember me as someone whose fingers were delicious. He won't bite you. I promise. You promise? You can't promise what an animal will do. Harper's expression became serious. Ambassador, I've worked with Brutus for 6 months. I've studied his body language, his behavioral patterns, his triggers. Right now, he's in assessment mode, not attack mode. His ears are forward but relaxed. His weight is evenly distributed, not coiled for striking. His breathing is steady. Every signal says he's curious, not aggressive. I wouldn't ask you to do this if I wasn't certain. Thren-Var looked at his security team through the reinforced glass. They were no help, standing there with expressions that said this was above their pay grade. If I die, he said, I want it noted that I died serving the Galactic Council. Not because I wanted to. Noted. Vex 9 said through the intercom. Slowly, painfully, slowly. Thren-Var extended one scaled hand. Harper placed a treat in his palm. It looked absurdly small against his large fingers. Now hold it out, palm flat, and wait. The seconds stretched like hyperspace jumps gone wrong. Brutus sniffed the air. He looked at Harper, then at Thren-Var, then at the treat. The internal calculation was almost visible. New weird tall thing equals potential threat. But new weird tall thing has food, and human trusts new weird tall thing, so maybe new weird tall thing is acceptable. Brutus stepped forward. Once. Twice. He was within biting distance now. Thren-Var's hand trembled slightly. Steady, Harper whispered. The honey badger extended his neck, sniffed Thren-Var's hand thoroughly enough to probably determine his last 3 meals, and then, with surprising gentleness, took the treat. He stepped back, chewed, and made a satisfied sound. In the observation room, Cree exhaled loudly. I didn't realize I was holding my breath. I think we all were, Vex 9 admitted. Thren-Var looked at his hand like it had performed magic. He didn't bite me. I told you he wouldn't. Harper was grinning now. Congratulations, Ambassador. You've just participated in successful interspecies contact with one of Earth's most notoriously aggressive mammals. I need to sit down. After the demonstration, we can debrief. But first, want to try petting him? Don't push your luck, Handler Mills. But there was something in Thren-Var's voice now. Not fear exactly, but respect. Maybe even the beginning of understanding. Harper knelt beside Brutus. Who's a good boy who didn't maul a diplomat? You are. Yes, you are. The honey badger made a sound that might have been pleasure or might have been indigestion. With honey badgers, it was hard to tell. Thren-Var watched this interaction with newfound perspective. So this is how humans do it. They don't dominate. They don't intimidate. They just persist until mutual understanding develops. Pretty much, Harper said. We're stubborn like that. We assume that given enough time and patience, we can find common ground with anything. Even creatures that communicate primarily through violence. That's either profound wisdom or spectacular stupidity. Why not both? Later, in Vex 9's office, Ambassador Thren-Var reviewed the footage from multiple angles. His scales had returned to a healthier green color, suggesting he'd processed the experience without lasting trauma. I came here expecting to shut down your program, he admitted. The council members who sent me believe humans are too casual about dangerous wildlife, that you'll introduce species into the galactic community that will cause catastrophic incidents. And now, Vex 9 asked. Now I think maybe we've been approaching interspecies relations wrong. We categorize based on threat assessment and keep everything dangerous at a distance. Humans categorize based on potential for understanding and assume distance is just a temporary condition. Cree pulled up additional files. Harper Mills isn't unique, Ambassador. We have 17 other human wildlife specialists working with creatures from across Earth's ecosystems. Reptiles, insects, marine life, predators, venomous species. They approach each with the same philosophy. Respect but not fear, caution but not avoidance. Thren-Var watched another clip, this one showing Harper teaching Brutus to accept medical examinations. The honey badger clearly hated every second but tolerated it because of established trust. Instructor Vex 9 said to control him, Thren-Var recalled. But that's not what she did. She didn't control him, she convinced him. That's the human method, Vex 9 agreed. They don't believe in absolute control. They believe in partnership, even with species that don't conceptually understand partnership. It's inefficient, frequently dangerous, and somehow it works more often than it should. Because they're patient? Because they're insane, Vex 9 said flatly. But it's a very useful kind of insane. Thren-Var stood, straightening his robes. I'll recommend the program continues. With expanded funding. Actually, if humans can socialize honey badgers, perhaps they can teach the rest of us how to handle our own difficult species. Are you comparing galactic diplomacy to wildlife management? Cree asked. Lieutenant, after today, I'm convinced they're essentially the same thing. Different scales, same principles. Understanding, patience, and the willingness to stand still while something terrifying evaluates whether to bite you. That's surprisingly insightful. Sir, I have my moments. Thren-Var headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. Harper Mills mentioned premium treats with mealworms. Does she have a supplier? I'm thinking of applying similar motivation techniques with some of our more obstinate council members. Vex 9 couldn't tell if he was joking. Possibly Thren-Var didn't know either. After the ambassador left, Cree turned to his instructor. So we're keeping the program? We're keeping the program, though I'm requesting hazard pay increases for everyone involved. Fair. Down in the training area, Harper was finishing her daily session with Brutus. The honey badger had earned extra treats today for his exceptional behavior with the ambassador. He seemed smugly satisfied with himself. If honey badgers could be smug, they probably could. You know, Harper said, scratching behind his ears, you made a lot of people very nervous today. But you also showed them something important. That being aggressive doesn't mean being unmanageable. That having strong survival instincts doesn't mean being incompatible with civilization. You're proof that understanding beats assumptions every time. Brutus yawned, displaying an impressive set of teeth. Yeah. You're very scary. But you're also a good boy. Don't let it go to your head. She filed her daily report, noting progress in social acclimation and reduced aggressive responses to novel stimuli. Tomorrow they'd work on advanced scenarios, maybe introducing Brutus to the cafeteria environment. Or perhaps that was too ambitious. Then again, if humans had learned anything, it was that too ambitious was just another way of saying, not attempted yet. Harper smiled, locked the training area, and headed home. Behind her, Brutus settled into his upgraded enclosure, already planning tomorrow's strategies for obtaining maximum treats with minimum compliance. In the observation room, Vex 9 made his final notes. Subject continues exceeding expectations. Handler demonstrates unprecedented ability to establish cooperation with hostile fauna. Recommend continued monitoring and possible expansion to more challenging species. Then he added one more line. Humans remain incomprehensible but increasingly invaluable. Diplomatic applications pending. He saved the file, turned off the lights, and wondered what impossible thing the humans would tame next. Knowing them, probably something even more ridiculous than a honey badger. He was almost looking forward to it. Almost.